Here are your hosts, Derick G and AJ.
The trilogy, the grudge match. Leon Edwards versus Kamaru Usman, number 3 in the UK. It's going to be a banger. This is the welterweight championship on the line. What's going on, folks? Welcome back to another episode of the Bloody Water Podcast. We got high stakes here today. It's as simple as that. You got Justin Gaethje versus Rafael Fiziev. You got car crashes incoming. You got a lot of good fights. UFC 286. We're just a couple weeks removed from John Jones doing his thing, and I think it's time to talk about it. But you know, breaking it down with me, as always, is the New Mexico native, the Santa Fe bomber himself, sporting a new backdrop. Brother, how you living, man?
Woo, Derick, you're right, brother. Sporting a new backdrop. We in a new apartment, so still shaking things up, folks. You'll see the backdrop change a little bit, but I'm living well, Derick. You're talking about a trilogy, and I don't think it could be set up any better, folks. If you look at that score down below, it's 0-0. Same thing going into the trilogy for Kamaru and Leon Edwards. 0-0 for basically 0-0 for both of them. 1-1 apiece, man. This is gonna be a fun weekend. I'm glad you said car crashes. We have the most exciting man in the fight entertainment industry going into the cage against a killer in Fiziev, brother. I'm excited to break it all down with you, man. I'm doing well. How you living?
I'm living good, man. And folks, I want to give you a quick address, right? We missed last week's couple of episodes. We apologize. Life happens. Life gets in the way. Technical difficulties. As you can sound or hear, I guess you could say, I don't sound the greatest right now. I'm a little under the weather, but we pushing through because you couldn't miss this card. You couldn't miss UFC 286. So, you know what I mean? With that being said, we're going to move on because you can't fix the past. You can only move forward and change the future. So, with that being said, folks, we're not going to mince any words. If you haven't subscribed to the Bloody Water Podcast on YouTube, you should absolutely do so. AJ, where can they find you on Twitch?
Man, twitch.tv/Santa Fe Bomber. Now that we're back in the right spot, we're getting down over there. We're playing games, we're doing art, but the most important thing, we're talking fights. And if you want to jump in the chat, win yourself some money, that's the best way to get that insider knowledge.
That's right. All right. Well, let's get it, brother. TLDR, straight to the point. Folks, this is your opportunity. If you are watching, take a screenshot. For those who are listening, I'm going to run it down real quick. Bloody Water Podcast consensus picks. AJ, run it down with me real quick. Hold on. Let me take it off real quick. We have, I think we only got 2, brother. All right, we got 3. Oops, sorry. We got Kamaru Usman. I mean, come on, brother. The way that things rounded out the last time, you win 4.95 of like the 5 rounds, maybe. I mean, I don't know. I guess it depends. If you really watch it back, Leon Edwards did get the takedown. That's besides the point. We like Usman. The other 2, I do believe, is going to be Casey O'Neill. And let's take a quick check. Marvin. Vettori, brother. Okay, so with that being said, that's the Bloody Water Podcast consensus picks. Give me one sentence why you like Bryan Barberena over Gunnar Nelson.
Man, that's actually a hard one, Derick, because it's such a close fight. I don't want to break it down too much, man. This one's a close one.
All right, and then the other one that we have is the car crash in and of itself, man. You said the most entertaining fighter on the planet in the company's history in the UFC versus Rafael Fiziev, a Muay Thai striker, a Muay Thai coach, a dude who is arguably just as exciting, probably just a little more technical. I'll tell you what, I like the technical fighter in these exchanges, and I'm going to leave it at that. AJ, you got anything? Are you ready to move forward?
D1 wrestling is what Justin Gaethje brings to the table. Let's hope he remembers who he is.
Exactly. Let's hope he remembers that he can wrestle. So one more time, take a screenshot. This is your opportunity for UFC 286. But without any further ado, I think we got a championship fight to talk about. Let's get it.
Here's to another main card breakdown, courtesy of your hosts, Derick G and AJ.
All right, my man. It's a little weird. I'm not going to lie to you. You got Leon Edwards. You got the belt on the shoulder. Kamaru Usman. When's the last time you seen the man? I mean, this is back when Tyron Woodley was running the division is when you saw Kamaru Usman without a belt. But I do think that when you have your plan set out, when you're talking about, I think I'm going to win this next fight, and then I'll like go fight Canelo, and then I'll go do this, and then you start like lining things up, that's when you lose focus for that one split moment, and now you're back at square one. Arguably, you don't get a belt, you're back at square one. Let me ask you this, man. Given the trajectory of their last fight, it's hard to make an argument that Leon Edwards has Kamaru Usman's number. You got caught. That's what happened. What can Leon Edwards do in this trilogy match to really even the playing field? To not make this I have to catch him and I have to finish him to be able to win, but to make it a compelling 5 rounds. Who knows who's going to win? What do you think?
I think there's two things that Leon can come in here and do, Derek. The first one, you kind of hinted towards it in the beginning, get that first round takedown again, but this time hold him down, solidify that you are the top dog in there. And as well, what goes kind of hand in hand with that, have the gas tank in order to really win those later rounds. Because that was the big thing going into the last one, man. You can kind of see that Leon was defeated, or at least he looked that way. It looked like the energy was low. You land a beautiful head kick that he set up. Credit to him because he did set up the head kick and landed it perfectly. But besides that, it was 4.5 rounds of an ass whooping. And if he can avoid getting taken down, getting beat up, getting mauled, and turn that on its head and actually have Kamaru be the one on the bottom, I think he can solidify and change a lot of minds right here. I liked what you said in the beginning, Derek, because if Leon Edwards loses this fight, it's not back to the number one contender. It's back to square one. They did Rocky dirty for a very long time, and he really needs this win, or else he's going right back with the rest of the cattle, the rest of the boys in the back, and it's going to be rough for him. Do you think it's going to be actually that way, or is Uncle Dana finally, committed to the Leon Edwards experience?
No way, man. Because if you look at Leon Edwards, we have another very similar situation with another prospect who gets no love. And that's, remember the name, Bilal Muhammad, right? 8-fight win streak. However, they're like, yeah, go keep fighting these guys until you can finally get a title shot. They don't want to give these guys credit because welterweight is so stacked, right? You got a lot of really good fighters there. So this is a back against the wall situation for both fighters here. Because Kamaru Usman, we're talking legacy as well. Leon Edwards, we're also talking legacy, arguably. So this is my question to you in regards to those takedowns, because I thought that was interesting. It's easy to forget. Usman took down Edwards 5 times in the fight, right? Edwards did take Usman down, and people made big deal out of it because he was, the first man to take down Usman in the UFC. Didn't just take him down, he took his back. Here's my question to you. Okay, Edwards took the back. Did he finish him? Did he have him in threat of a real choke? Did he have him in any real fight-ending sequence at all? No, he didn't. And that's kind of my point right here, is that it's impressive given the man you did it against, but how about you take that same approach, try to duplicate it, and then try to start these fight-ending sequences? That's when we can start to have real success here, because on the feet, when you're mixing it up like Usman was, that's when he's not giving him a chance. So why not try to put Usman on his back and then try to work there? In regards to the cardio, you don't think that cardio is going to be a problem for Edwards this time around, right? Last time they fought at Elevation. This time you're in the UK. This is where the dude's from. He trains there. Cardio shouldn't be a problem, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think so, Derek, until your back's against the mat for, 20 minutes and you're just trying to get up, dragged into those waters. That's when the cardio hits. And really, it's also a mental game, I think, that really drains your cardio. When you're standing against an Usman who is continuously going to be going on that front foot, never shows a hinge in the armor, a crack in the armor at all, it's a little demoralizing. I think that's what drains the gas tank a little bit more. I'm pretty sure the physical will be there. Do you think the mental game is going to play as much as I'm leading on?
It's tough, man, because the mental goes for both fighters, right? A lot of people are saying after a knockout like that, will Usman ever be the same? And I feel like they're hinging this entire fight based on, it doesn't matter how good Usman is. It doesn't matter how well he performed in the last fight. Is he mentally there? And I can't answer that question for you. We're just going to have to find out. But the question is, Leon Edwards, for 4.5 rounds, mentally was not there. So will you show up for all 5 rounds? Will you be 5-round ready? And I think that's going to be the big intangible that we really can't put our finger on. But let's talk X's and O's, man. Obviously, Usman, if he didn't get rocked, he was heading to a decision victory, a very clear decision victory. Path to victory for Leon Edwards. What is it? Is it decision? Are we banking on another knockout? What are we banking on here?
I think if you're looking for legacy, you're banking on a knockout. The most clear path to victory, I think, is a decision, but that's a hard one, man, because that's a dog fight against Kamaru Usman, who is a dog amongst dogs. I don't know, Derek. What do you think is the easiest way? And I don't want to hinge too much on those props, but you can see they're pretty big headed towards the champ right now.
Yeah, man. They're large in a bad way for the champion Leon Edwards. If you look at the plus 120 decision for Usman, I think that's the easiest prop to play right there. For Leon Edwards, I'm just trying to think, how do you win these rounds against Usman? What do you do to win these rounds? If you're not taking him down and holding him there, what are you doing to stop getting taken down? Are you piecing him up? Are you rocking him? And go ahead.
I was going to say piecing him up and keeping that jab away, man, keeping him at bay. Because if he can't get to your hips, notoriously Usman can't really do too much damage. He needs to bully you. He needs to put the pressure on you. He's not really a slip and dip kind of guy. He has those moves, and he has the power, and he has the striking to get it done. But I would say Rocky's a little more fluid on the feet, a little more fluid in the boxing. If he can keep him at bay, then we're looking at a real fight right here.
All I hear is if, brother. I hear a bunch of ifs,
Yep.
and I'm gonna round it out like this, man. I don't really see the path to victory unless he puts on a striking masterclass and avoids the takedown. Once again, Usman took him down 5 times when they fought in their last fight. It just happened, man, and it's just a matter of punching in to close distance, getting on those hips, taking it down, rinse, wash, repeat. Even if it's mat returns, it doesn't matter. Demoralize your opponent. Listen, man. Minus 240 for the challenger, Kamaru Usman, plus 200 for Leon Edwards. You look at the props, plus 450 is his best shot, and it's either a decision or it's a TKO. Submission is plus 1,000. Give me the Kamaru Usman decision victory, man. I got and knew Kamaru Usman gets his belt back. I suspect maybe one more title defense, and then he calls it quits. You know what I mean? Or he calls it quits right after this one. But what do you think?
Yeah, man. I mean, if he gets it done, I think that could be a chance. And personally, for this fight, man, I'm going Kamaru Usman as well. And I'm actually taking the poetic justice TKO round 4.
Oh, he's going the TKO. Okay. All right. It'll be interesting to see. But that is going to be your championship main event right there, folks. So let's move on to the next one. All right. We said it earlier, car crashes, man. Justin Gaethje versus Rafael Fiziev. And this is an interesting matchup, man. This is one where I think they'd been calling for this matchup for quite some time, but given the trajectory of Justin Gaethje's career, it's almost a little bit surprising to see. So you kind of have to take a walk through memory lane, and I'm actually going to pull this up just so we can all see this right now. If you look at Justin Gaethje's career, last fight was against Charles Oliveira. And, of course, he gets submitted in the first round when Oliveira was on that crazy run. He did get that victory over Michael Chandler, even though, given that it was a decision, you kind of would have thought maybe he would have been able to put him away or something like that, but he did get the job done. Last loss before that was to Khabib, and then before that, it was pretty much a rampage, man. Ferguson, Cerrone, Barboza, Vic. If there's one thing we know about Justin Gaethje, excuse me, it's live or die, right? Live or die by the sword. That's really what it comes down to. Now, I want your honest opinion right here, AJ. Not about Justin Gaethje, but about Rafael Fiziev. Even though he's equally as dangerous of a fighter, you'd have to argue he's a little more of a tactician, right? A little more calculated in his risk assessment. He's not willing to go out on his shield the same way that Gaethje does. How does that play into this matchup?
Yes, he is a lot more of a tactician. As far as the second part, I don't necessarily know if he's not willing to go out on his shield. He's just not as eager to go out on his shield, I think is the more apt way to say it. Because Fiziev is down for a dogfight. I think it was the RDA. I don't have the stats up right now, but I'm pretty sure it was the RDA fight where he was down. Fiziev is down to step inside that phone booth and swing.
Yeah.
Now, as far as the tactician, I agree with you 100% there, Derek. He is a lot more calculated in the way he's going about his business. Even in that same aspect where he's willing to step in and go out on his shield, he's doing it a more tactful route. He sees a lot more holes. He's doing a lot more reads faster. There's things in Fiziev's game that you can see if you're looking at a striking like he's playing chess, man. It's a beautiful thing, and I'm pretty sure he was out there teaching striking out at Muay Thai in Bangkok. So at Target Muay Thai, I believe the camp was. But either way, dude, this dude is smart, and you can see how he goes about things. I'm excited to see if Justin Gaethje, in the way that he's going to be, coming down the pipe, foot on the gas, front foot forward, how that's going to affect Fiziev. Because if Fiziev is able to step off to the corner, step off to the side, hit a counter strike, step off, hit him in the chin, something like that, get a body shot, make Justin Gaethje not want to come in and blitz, not want him to be Mr. Highlight that he is, then we really have a tactician battle, and we're going to see Justin Gaethje start making other moves. Do you think Fiziev can actually handle that blitz, handle that pressure? Or is he just going to be a deer in headlights right here, Derek?
No, I think Fiziev is a phenomenal counter striker, and I think that if Justin Gaethje brings the offense, that's where the holes are going to open up. I think it's all going to be predicated off of two things. One, I feel like it's almost every fight. We're like, will Justin Gaethje wrestle? And we know, no, he won't. He just refuses. He just won't. And I'm trying to think, there's another fighter who is just as good of a wrestler. Oh, it's Michael Chandler, of course. When we're like, dude, just wrestle. And he just won't. He just refuses. So for Justin Gaethje, I think the key here is going to be the calf kick, right? Because if you look at his 2 losses, there's one common denominator. It's the calf kick. Khabib Nurmagomedov, he landed it clean a bunch of times. Khabib just walked through it, right? For Charles Oliveira, think about this. Oliveira is a Muay Thai striker. And one thing that he was very good at is dipping that leg back when the calf kick came. So he wasn't checking it. He was literally getting out the way. Okay, well, Rafael Fiziev, he is a Muay Thai striker. You just mentioned he was coaching Muay Thai at Tiger Muay Thai in Phuket, Thailand, right? So what it comes down to is, will that calf kick land? If it does land, how much damage will it do to the mobility of Rafael Fiziev? If it does not land, it almost seems like Gaethje's offense kind of dips if he cannot set up that calf kick. So if he's not going to wrestle, he's not going to set up the calf kick. A lot of his striking is simply boxing. And then the explosive nature of his game leads to fatigue in round 2, round 3. Rafael Fiziev, on the other hand, man, I just see him circling, strategically pinpointing where he needs to set up his shots, but he's very kick heavy, right? So it's going to be the boxer versus kind of the kicker in a way right here, man. What is the equalizer in terms of a knockout here? Justin Gaethje hits like a truck. Rafael Fiziev has precise precision, but he's a very precise striker. But like, what's the catalyst for that knockout, man? What does each fighter have to do to get that knockout?
As far as Justin Gaethje, I think the knockout's going to come in the chaos for him. And in the 4th or the 5th punch, the things that are going when these guys are trading, they're in the late rounds, willing to step on and bite in that mouthpiece. I think that's what we're looking for Justin Gaethje. Mm-hmm. As far as Fiziev, man, the counter strike or the step off high kick, man, is a beautiful thing that Fiziev likes to do. He's very good at spins too. So if you see Justin Gaethje shoot in, miss something, look for him to circle out, hit a spin. A lot of elbows come from Fiziev. I mean, I like Fiziev a lot because he's able to get things done in the striking. Folks, you know me. You know I love the striking, so it's hard to bet against Fiziev on this one. Personally, though, I think the real catalyst here, Derick, you said it. Will Justin Gaethje wrestle? Will he be put in a position where he needs to wrestle? Or will he just go to sleep? I mean, that's the big one here, and it's all depending if he does. I'm hoping Trevor Whitman's talked a lot of sense into him because the only way that Justin Gaethje is going to get back on the trajectory that he had is by getting the wins, is by becoming a more well-rounded fighter and getting back to that D1 wrestling. Because what happens when you do get to that wrestling? Then you get the ground and pound, then you get the smash, then you get the easy wins, and you're able to get back to the knockouts that you used to have, the highlight reel you used to have. Hopefully that all works out, but again, it's a lot of ifs. What do you think, Derick?
That's right. No, I mean, you make a good point. I'll just say this. There's one part of Justin Gaethje's game that worries me. It's his ability to be exciting. And I know that sounds crazy, but because he's an exciting fighter, he does often overextend himself on his shots, right? And I'm not talking about just a regular, I overextended on my right cross or I overextended on a jab. It's like I put myself completely out of position. I'm not even facing my opponent anymore. And that's where I honestly think Rafael Fiziev comes in with a counter kick and puts the lights out. I think that's what it is. If you look at that Brad Riddell fight, that's that wheel kick that he landed. Beautiful. And it just put him out, right? Left hook against RDA in his last fight. You look at really his last 5 fights, and they're all against legit strikers. RDA, Brad Riddell, Bobby Green, Renato Moicano, Mark Jacasey. All legit strikers, man. Now, on the other hand, you look at Justin Gaethje, and if I'm taking a peek right here, we're looking at Charles Oliveira, Michael Chandler, Khabib, Tony Ferguson, Donald Cerrone. So, I mean, equally just as good. I would say the only difference is he was dealing with way more of a grappling threat versus just pure striker. So, honestly, man, you can't put your finger on this and just say this guy is going to win. Car crashes, anything can happen. I'm just betting my money on the more tactical car crash in Rafael Fiziev. So give me, I mean, this is a 3-round fight, which is a shame. This should be 5 rounds. But give me a 3rd round TKO. I'm talking about classic Justin Gaethje. Leave it all out there. You're down, you got to go, and then you just get caught, and then it's game over. 3rd round TKO, Rafael Fiziev. How do you see it?
Yeah, Derick, this is going to be a very good fight and a very close fight. I think you have a very smart bet on your hands, man. I'm taking the underdog, though. I'm going Justin Gaethje. I'm going TKO, and I'm going round 2. I think we're going to see a hell of a fight on the first round, a scrap in the second. We're going to see a $50K bonus either way, man. I'm very excited for this one.
And then, bro, you have to even think, like, yeah, Justin Gaethje on paper is the underdog, but, I mean, the reality is he ever really an underdog? You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm saying. All right, brother. With that being said, let's move on to the next bout right here. Honestly, bro, for a second, I had to ask myself. I was like, so Bryan Barberena, he's officially just the fucking veteran slayer. Like, he just gets all the OG matchups until you realize Gunnar Nelson was originally slated to fight D-Rod, Derek Rodriguez. Daniel Rodriguez. Derick Rodriguez. Daniel Rodriguez, but the fight, it got canceled. Let me actually look why that fight got canceled. Oh, yeah, D-Rod, he just, I don't know, he got hurt. He withdrew for whatever reason, right? So Bryan Barberena aptly steps in and says, I'll save the day. Don't you worry, right? So just let's talk about this before we move into this fight, man. Harder matchup, Bryan Barberena or Daniel Rodriguez?
Barberena, actually, man. I feel like even though the youth of Daniel Rodriguez, the power, the speed, the boxing, he has a lot of these intangibles that makes him a very challenging opponent. I feel like Barberena has a couple extra things in the tool belt he can lean on. You know, the age, the experience, the chin. Barberena has power too. He might be not as slick on the feet as D-Rod, but homeboy can bang, and Bam Bam is here to bang all the time. So there's... You call him the legend killer, but I feel like at this point, Barberena is really stepping into his own, and I think he's getting a lot of respect from the UFC brass by stepping into positions like this, and they're putting him on the main cards of pay-per-views, and yeah, it is a short notice, but Barberena has been going from prelim to up the card, so this is a good trajectory for both people, and I'm glad to see Gunnar Nelson here too, man. Let's not let him fade off into this one, because he also accepted a short notice fight against a killer like Bryan Barberena. All credit to Gunnar Nelson, and he only fought 2 months ago, even less. Let's see. What do you know?
No, it was a year ago. Yeah, he fought a year ago, man, against Takashi Sato.
Oh man, I thought he had another fight that he was supposed to have.
He did have one that was supposed to be against Daniel Rodriguez. It was for this bout, but no, that was it. But this is what it comes down to, man. Listen, I love me some Bam Bam Barberena. This dude has been in there for the hard fights, the Matt Browns, the Robbie Lawlers, right? He even got a win against Darian Weeks. But he got choked out against RDA, right, in his last fight. And when you're fighting a guy whose specialty is choking people the fuck out, you're talking about Gunnar Nelson. So I think there's two ways that you can approach this fight. One is Gunnar Nelson, he spams the takedowns. Bryan Barberena puts on an admirable fight. He either gets finished or he loses a decision via just getting taken down time and time again. Look at the prop for submission here, minus 130. I mean, Gunnar Nelson, he's not a fucking chump. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is what the man do. This is what he does. Out of his total victories in the UFC, he's 9-5 in the UFC, 13 win, or actually, how many wins by submission? Mm-hmm. I can't tell you. He has a lot. He has 13 total. I can't tell you how many are in the UFC specifically, but this dude submits people. This is what he does. Bryan Barberena, man, if he can keep the fight on the feet, that's where this becomes a trap game. That's where this fight gets interesting. That's where I say, Bam Bam Bryan Barberena has a legitimate shot to get a victory here. Because if you look at the props, plus 900 for a decision, plus 400 for TKO, plus 2,200 for the submission, that goes to show you that they do think Gunnar Nelson's going to take him down time and time and time again. I think that's going to be the case too. How do you think Bryan Barberena avoids getting taken down, man? Do you think that he just has to start fast, start hot, and just get Gunnar Nelson out there, or do you have a different game plan?
Start fast, start hot, and throw those uppercuts, man. You got to throw stuff down the pipe, straight jabs, keep him at bay. Once he starts looking at your legs, start throwing the uppercuts. Let him know that if he's coming in towards your hips, he's going to have to eat one. And let him start thinking about that. That way, because you're right, Derek, it's 13 submissions in all of Gunnar Nelson's career, but the big thing, he's never been finished by submission either. So as much as rolling around he is there with other killers, he's always the one coming out on top. So you got to watch out for this dude getting to your hips, bringing you down, and submitting you. Doing that, like I said, man, Bryan Barberena has power. He has good foot movement. It may not be the sharpest of there, but he can see things coming. If he knows what you're talented at, you're able to avoid it a little bit easier. I'm hoping Barberena leans a little bit more on his veteran experience, but again, going against Gunny, another veteran right here.
Yeah, man. And excuse me. If you look at Gunnar Nelson against Takashi Sato in his last fight, took him down 3 times. If you look at Bryan Barberena in his fight against RDA, who RDA came out being like, I'm going to go back to business. This is what I do. Took him down 4 times and choked him out. How much can change, right, since that last fight, which happened in December? You got 3 months to just completely revamp and revitalize your takedown defense. It's going to be tough. But if he can stuff the takedowns and tire out Gunnar Nelson, he can win this fight by beating him up on the feet. It's just a matter of that big, monstrous if. Because Gunnar Nelson is a minus 400 favorite, and I think rightfully so, man. I think he was out of the spotlight for so long, people slept on him. They look at him and they think, who's this old guy against Bryan Barberena? Nah, I'm going to be honest with you. Give me Gunnar Nelson. But you know what, man? I'm actually going to take the unconventional approach. I feel like I'm almost missing out on stealing candy from a baby, but I'm going to take the decision. by Gunnar Nelson. I think Bryan Barberena is going to be very, very game, and I think it's going to be one of those washing machines, takedown, up, takedown, control him for an entire round, but not quite submit him, and then just ride out the fight for decision. What do you think?
I like it. I do think it's going to be a lot harder of a fight than a lot of people are thinking for both sides, whether you're on Barberena or whether you're on Gunny. I think it's going to be a very challenging fight. Me personally, though, I'm going with the underdog. I'm going Bam Bam Barberena. I'm actually taking the TKO. TKO is very heavy on this first round, man. I'm actually going round 1. I think it's going to end early.
My man is feeling Bam Bryan Barberena. All right, brother. Well, hey, listen, this is going to be an interesting one. You got to love it, though. You got to love to see Gunnar Nelson back in action. And then Bryan Barberena, definition of game. I don't want to hear what anybody says. He's the definition of game. All right, bro. Now, this is an interesting fight. King Casey O'Neill is back in action, and she has an interesting matchup here. Now, a lot of people, I think because of the popularity of Casey O'Neill, would immediately jump the gun and say, give me Casey O'Neill. She's going to beat her by, it doesn't matter, whatever she wants. And I would argue, nah, it's not quite that simple. I actually think here, the undefeated, Casey O'Neill is in for a little bit of a trap game. You're coming back from an injury, right, an ACL, trying to get your knee repaired. And you're fighting a Jennifer Maia who has come up short in the biggest moments, but she's very much, I would consider, a legitimate gatekeeper, meaning that if you want to be up there with the top fighters, you need to beat Jennifer Maia. Now, this is the interesting part when it comes down to it for me here, AJ, is when I look at Casey O'Neill, I mean, you got to think her most impressive victory to date is who? Roxanne Modafferi? Which is cool, man. Shout out to Roxanne Modafferi. She fought her actually when she was probably the most motivated. This was her going away fight. This was I'm going to leave everything out there. And you left everything out there, a savvy veteran, and he still came up short to the young gun, which you got to love. However, I mean, it seems like you disagree slightly, brother. Give me what you got.
No. She did come up. I mean, it was a lot harder of a fight. And I think I agree with you. I think O'Neill is in for a lot harder fight here against another vet. And that's what Modafferi was, man. It was a split decision. Maybe they were giving that one a little bit more to Modafferi just because it was her exit fight. And there's a little bit more on that. That's what I was thinking. But either way, I do think this is going to be a test for Casey O'Neill coming in here that she's not really ready for there. Well, she's going to be ready for it 100%. I do think she's going to win this fight. But I think coming back in with that ACL repair, first fight back in, you're in London, you got to get those jitters out. You're going against one of the greatest in the division to do it. She's a staple of a name is Jennifer Maia. Maybe not a household name, but if you know fighting, you know who Jennifer Maia is. She's very, very talented and skilled fighter. This is going to be a fun one, man. And it isn't just an easy as, disregarding Jennifer Maia as you can see the props right there. Excuse me as I fumble over my words. The TKO plus 1,000, submission 1,000. You can't just disregard her just because the oddsmakers are doing that. There is a chance she can win this fight.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And if you look at her last fight against a highly, highly touted fighter, Marina Moroz, man, who fantastic striking. We know that she came in hot, man. Marina Moroz had a lot of hype on her, and Jennifer Maia pieced her up and made it not even look like it was a tough day at the office, man. It was really just light work. Now, if you look at a couple of those losses recently, you lost to Manon Fiorot, number one fighter in the division. You lost to Caitlin Chikagian, the perennial. She was the number one fighter in the division for forever, right? But that top three now. A win over Jessica Ai, lost to Shevchenko. We remember that one. But she did beat Shevchenko for a round, so you got to give her that, right? And then a win over Joanne Wood, another loss to Chikagian, win over Modafferi and Alexis Davis. Like you said, OG, man. She been doing it for a little bit. So I do think that Jennifer Maia, man, on the feet might be able to give Casey O'Neill some real fits. So my question is, can Casey O'Neill mix in those takedowns? And this is all predicated on, are you truly 100% back from that knee injury? And I think that you can be our resident knee expert here, given that you went through some knee stuff yourself, man. How long, and listen, we're armchair people right here, man. We break down the fights. We love watching the fights, but we're not professional athletes. Given that you're not a professional athlete, how long did it take you to truly mentally feel confident on the stability of your knee after you injured yourself?
Ooh, I'd say at least a year, Derick. There's still some times if you're not warmed up and you go and you just have a little old school movement that you used to have, you give a little blitz, you give a little shake somewhere, and you feel it, you're like, oh, that's not moving the way it used to be. Especially the older you get, the harder it is. And Casey O'Neill's what, Derick? 30, 29? What is she?
She's young, man. Let me see.
25.
Yeah, she's
25.
young.
So that being said, man, she's still young. She can recover. I'd still say you're looking around that year, though. I mean, surgery, depending on how you went with that ACL, it's always going to be just a little iffy. I mean, the doctors will tell you the actual ligament and the suture and all that stuff is stronger than your other knee, but it's still a repaired knee. You still have other things going on all around you. Your body's trying to incorporate itself in this new thing that's going on. There's a lot of moving parts, especially when you're shooting for takedowns against a savvy veteran who knows how to defend those takedowns, who knows how to hurt that one knee, or at least everybody knows it's out there. You got to be worrisome about it going into this fight.
Yeah, you know what, man? That's something that I fail to think about sometimes is that you're coming off that knee injury. There's nothing stopping your opponent from targeting that knee. So you get a couple kicks around that knee, you might be like, oh, okay. You know what I'm saying? Either way, man, I think this is going to be a trap-type fight. I think it's going to be much more difficult than Casey O'Neal's probably expecting. I think this is going to be her highest level of opposition to date. So this is what I'm going to say to the people that are watching. If Jennifer Maia wins, I will not be surprised. I will not be surprised. This is arguably the toughest test of Casey O'Neal's career. However, I do think Casey O'Neal, even coming off of an injury, is the fighter that is going to be elevating up the rankings and really putting her mark on this division. She's undefeated. Maybe it might take that first loss to really get things going and revitalize, but I think she can come back. I think she's ready to go, and I think that this is going to be a fun fight. But if Casey O'Neal can get a couple takedowns and mix it up, I think she wins the fight. So I think Casey O'Neal by decision is the best bet right here. How do you see it?
I agree with you, Derek. I think Casey O'Neal by decision is a smart one right here. And since we're in agreement, I did have one more question for you. Does Casey O'Neal's back hit the mat in this one? You're talking about the Jennifer Maia beat Shevchenko when she was still the bullet, before this last fight. It was a one round, and she got the takedown. She held her down. It was an interesting thing. Can she do that? Can Maia do that against Casey O'Neal? Does her back hit the mat? How many times? But like I said, Derek, I'm going Casey O'Neal by decision. It's a smart way to go.
Absolutely. And that's a good question because I do think that Jennifer Maia has the ability to take Casey O'Neal down. But here's my question to you. I'm going to counter this because intuitively, logically, this is how my brain works. Do you want to even enter that realm against a fighter whose probably sole goal is to probably take you down? Do you even want to enter that realm, or would you rather just say, I'm going to stick on the feet and I'm going to box your face off? Why even go there? Leon Edwards, for an example, right? He takes Usman down, doesn't really do much. What if Usman was able to sweep him and now he's on top and now you're fucked for the rest of the round because you voluntarily went there when you should have stuck to your bread and butter? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel that then the devil's advocate to that one is beat you up at your own game, take the John Jones approach. Can Casey O'Neal or Jennifer Maia do that? I don't know. It's an interesting one. It's just a nice little mind bender.
Yeah, it's a good thought experiment, but I'll tell you, Jennifer Maia is not John Jones. So, no. But hey, I love to think abstractly about this stuff, man. So with that being said, we're in consensus. Casey O'Neal decision coming off a victory. It's risky, folks, but I like it. -175. I don't think it's too crazy of a number right there. All right, man. And somehow this gets snuck down on the opening bout. I get it. But at the end of the day, this is high stakes right here, man. Marvin Vettori versus Roman Dolidze. Here's the thing, man. If Roman Dolidze can capitalize on this and he can get this win, Marvin Vettori for a long time was legitimately like the guy to like, if you're going to beat Adesanya, it's Vettori. You fought him a couple times, you lost a couple times, but he was like kind of that guy. If Roman Dolidze can beat Marvin Vettori, you ultimately take that guy's hype. You take all of his you know what I'm trying to say. You take it, and then you move up to now you're in contention for that title shot. You beat the guy that fought the former champion. It's even hard to remember the former champion. You know what I'm saying? You take that spot. So Roman Dolidze, man, great fighter. Jiu-jitsu, phenomenal, very technical. Like he's not a wrestler, he's a grappler, right? And he's got bombs in his hands. So people kind of forget that too, that he's like, he came up as a grappler first, but he could knock your head off your shoulders. But then AJ, man, I think we can be in consensus here. There's something about a Marvin Vettori who has a chin of granite, who walks through anything and has cardio that can go, we don't need to go 5 rounds, let's go 10 rounds. Marvin Vettori will be able to be ready and be able to go. So I want to know, what do you think intuitively about this matchup, man? When you see this, do you think Marvin Vettori should be a -300 favorite? I don't know if he should be. I don't know if I agree with that line. What do you think?
I don't agree with that line. I do think he should be the favorite, especially for the position he's held for such a long time. I mean, this dude, you give him, like you said, Derek, you give him 10 rounds. Your homeboy will show up and be ready every single minute of every single round. But a minus 300 against a very talented and dangerous Dolidze is a bit of a stretch for me, man. I was looking in that, 150, 200 range, still close, still a favorite, but not so much that people look at this and see, what is that, a 1.5 to 1, whatever the odds are. It is still shocking to see it that high. I definitely think a lot of people are overlooking Dolidze right here. And maybe it's because of the ground skill. Like you said, we saw Derick in all of the fights that Vettori has had. This guy is a marauder, but not only a marauder, this guy can take you down and have a skilled and talented and well thought out plan to his fight. Get things going. Yeah, you failed a couple times against the previous champ. Yeah, you can be outpaced in the striking, but if you get your hands on the man, Marvin Vettori is a hell of a night out, man.
So this is, I agree with everything you're saying, but this is where it gets interesting to me, man. We know Marvin Vettori as a phenomenal wrestler, man. Phenomenal. We know him as that's his game plan. Against Adesanya, what's he trying to do? He's trying to take you down. How many takedowns does he average a fight? Almost about 2 takedowns a fight, right? Roman Dolidze, very much, he can wrestle you up. He can grapple you up. He can do whatever. Coming from the grappling background that I have, I see it this way. Marvin Vettori comes in on the takedown against Dolidze. Dolidze says, all right, now perfect opportunity. Let me start working my guard. Let me start doing some fancy shit. Look at his last fight, man. This dude won via calf slicer beating your face in. I can't lie to you, man. The amount of times that video circulated amongst my jiu-jitsu buddies, we're like, flawless jiu-jitsu. I love it, right? Can he do that against a Marvin Vettori? Is it a good idea for the wrestler to come in versus the grappler and then allow him to start using his guard? Now, on one hand, it's MMA. This is not jiu-jitsu, so if you don't get the submission, you lose. But if Roman Dolidze sweeps you from that bottom position to on top, now all of a sudden he's winning. So do we see even a heavy wrestling approach from Marvin Vettori, or is he smart enough to say, let me sit here and I think I can outstrike you. I think that I can have a 3-round striking war with you. Because Dolidze throws bombs, but he's not the quickest, spryest striker in the world.
Yeah, I agree with you. He's not the quickest or the spryest striker, but neither would I say is Marvin Vettori, man. When Marvin gets a little angry, homeboy just starts throwing mallets and winding up, big shots coming over the top. He sees red and he has that classic blitz, that marauder blitz that we always talk about. So I kind of think Dolidze might outstrike him in that battle. Now, what you're talking about the wrestling and the jiu-jitsu, yeah, it sounds dangerous, going into the lion's den, going into the guard of a like you said, a killer in Dolidze, who's able to put up a different kind of submission that maybe Marvin Vettori hasn't seen. Sounds dangerous, but if history has proven anything, the wrestler is able to take down the jiu-jitsu guy, and as they're working things on their back, as they're trying to do all this stuff, set up all the attacks that you can, Vettori's just punching your face in. Even if he doesn't finish you, it looks bad to the judges. Your back's against the mat. You're in the less dominant position. It's a lot harder to win a fight that way if you don't get the finish. Now, can he get the finish? I think so, man. Dolidze is very, very talented. But I also think it's a little more likely that Vettori's gonna be that wet blanket, be the dude that's just on top the whole time, not getting swept and putting his hands in your face. That's how I see Vettori winning this fight.
Yeah, I hear you 100%, man. I will just say, you look at the last 3 opponents of Dolidze, Jack Hermanson, wrestler, right? You knocked him out, but you really trapped him up in that pretzel. Phil Hawes knocked him to another galaxy. And then Kyle Dawkins, who, it's tough. He's, might not be built for that weight class. Might need to be a welterweight, you know what I'm saying? But either way, if you look at Marvin Vettori, though, you have to argue this dude fought way better competition. We're talking about Robert Whittaker, Paulo Costa, Israel Adesanya, Kevin Holland, Jack Hermanson, Carl Roberson, Andrew Sanchez. Just the competition's better. It's a little more steep, right? So for that reason, I do like Marvin Vettori. I do think that he's the more experienced fighter. I think that he's the more chiseled veteran. And I think that given the proper game plan, if we don't see angry Marvin, which is, not our favorite Marvin, but if we don't see him, I think that he can win this fight. And then you have to think, Roman Dolidze is not the type of fighter with a fight style like Adesanya that can make Marvin Vettori angry Marvin, right? It doesn't really possess that same style. So you can argue, out of the last couple of fighters that he's fought, this is probably the best matchup he's had since, Kevin Holland? right? You know what I mean? Like in terms of just a path to victory, an ability to kind of get in there and see a solid path. Because Paulo Costa, on the other hand, even though he decisioned him, he got a performance of the night on that one, high striking volume. Roman Dolidze is no Paulo Costa. You know what I'm saying? So this might be too big of a test for Dolidze right now, but be honest with me right here, because I want to talk long-term assessment. Can you see Roman Dolidze being in that top 3 in this division?
Top 3, yes. Champions, a little bit more of a stretch. And top 5, definitely, man. Dolidze has the skill to get it done. What worries me a little bit more about Dolidze is not necessarily the X's and O's. This dude can get it done, but do people care about a Roman Dolidze who kind of falls off after the fight happens? He doesn't really have any press lead up, and it could be a language thing. It could be a region thing. Maybe I'm pretty sure Romania, wherever he's from.
I believe he's a Georgian.
Georgian, yeah, well, and that's the thing, man. Georgians, they're huge over there, so I'm sure the Georgian crowd is going to show up in force. But how do we transform him into that next level of stardom and get some eyes on this guy? Because he's talented enough to get it done. I think this is a stepping stone. If he can get one on Vettori, if he can get a star-studded knockout, people start calling for his name, they see the holes that Dolidze presents. You know, if this is an actual dogfight, if Vettori can expose some things, but then Dolidze gets the finish. Then we're talking about championship material, top 3, top 5, all that kind of jazz. But until then, I kind of think Dolidze fades off into the ether. I mean, tell me if I'm wrong here, Derick, but do you see a lot of people clamoring for a Dolidze fight?
No, to the casual, I don't think people know who he is at all, right? To us, so he's a big deal, right?
Yeah.
But I think even the casual knows of Marvin Vettori. They know Angry Marvin. You've seen the man get angry, yell at people on stage and shit like that. Like, we've seen it. So, yeah, I do think Marvin Vettori brings bigger hype, but at the end of the day, when it comes down to winning a fight, it doesn't matter about hype. It just matters about skill. And I think Roman Dolidze possesses the skill set to win this fight, but I think Marvin Vettori has the other intangibles that will lead him to victory. So with that being said, I hate to go this route, but I do think in classic Marvin Vettori style, he wins via decision. Minus 135, I would not play that line. Minus 300, I would not play that line. I would actually stay away from this in totality, but given we make picks here, I'm picking decision, Marvin Vettori. How do you see it?
Man, I hate to go with you on a second decision again, Derick, but this is really the biggest way I think Marvin wins this fight, man. And as boring as it is to a casual or as a stuff, man, wet blanket Marvin is a lot more dangerous than angry Marvin. I think that's what we're going to see, the solid wrestling performance right here. Give me Marvin Vettori. Give me that minus 135 decision. But if you're putting money on it, folks, hold on right there. Don't do that, okay? Either way, like I said, decision.
That's right. All right, brother. With that being said, boom, UFC 286 out there in the UK, man. Should be a fun one. But let's not forget, that is the paid portion, right, of the event. Now we got a bunch of free fights that we want to talk about, and we want to talk about some sleepers. So let's get it.
It's time for some fight night.
And if you ain't paying attention, you're gonna sleep on me and I'm gonna wake you up.
All right, my man. So listen, I know that I'm going to keep mine very, very short and sweet because my matchup is really built to just sleeper all over. But you have a fun one right here, man. One that, even though I'm pretty sure I put my sleeper first, then you put your sleeper, and then I was like, oh, damn. That's a fucking sleeper right there. So let's talk about it, bro. We're looking at Jai Herbert versus Ludovic Klein, man. And I don't know if this is true, but I had a feeling that Ludovic Klein like got cut or something and then got like re-signed, you know what I mean? And got back into action. So talk to me, brother. Jai Herbert, Ludovic Klein, 155 pounds. What do you think?
Yeah, man, this is a fun one. I think you're right on the Ludovic Klein thing, Derick, but I picked this one as a sleeper because this one is buried so deep on the prelims. You were talking about the Vettori fight being buried on the main event, on the pay-per-view, but this fight, man, Jai Herbert, the Black Country Banger versus Ludovic, Mr. Highlight Klein, man, this one is going to be fun, folks. If you know this show and if you're a fan of me in this show, man, you know that I like striking, I like fireworks, and this is what it's going to be, man. You can see these dudes are able to get it done in a multitude of ways, ups and downs on a lot of their performances. But either way, both of these dudes are going to step in there, have a lot of fun, watch the spinning kicks, watch the high kicks, watch the elbows. This one's going to be a blast, man. You can see right there where Derick's pointing out. The majority of people, however they see this fight ending, see it as a KO. 41% for Herbert. I think it was something like 30 or 58% for Ludovic Klein. We're gonna see a knockout. We're gonna see a fun one. Tune in early because I think it's the second fight on the prelim card. So tune in early. Get your popcorn. Don't blink. This one's gonna be a blast right here, Derick. What do you think?
That's right. No, this is going to be a very, very fun matchup here. And I honestly think, even though the people are in favor of Ludwig Klein, I think this is a super winnable fight for Jai Herbert. You have to remember, Ludwig Klein's last fight against Mason Jones, and Mason Jones, I do believe he got cut from the promotion. Jones was he pulled flying armbar or some shit, man, in like the third round of a fight that was super close. And it was like, why would you do this? And of course it didn't work. So it was that close for Jones winning the fight and Ludwig Klein losing. So I think that Jai Herbert, man, with the striking, with his ability to stave off the takedown, I think that this should be a very, very fun one. Now, for my sleeper, this is all I'm going to say. I'm not even going to explain this to you guys. Jake Hadley, Malcolm Gordon, 125 pounds, pace out the roof. These dudes look 9-1 for Hadley. You got a revitalized Malcolm X Gordon. You look at the last fight, Candelario, submission for Jake Hadley. Last fight, Muhammad Mokaev for Malcolm Gordon, who put up a very, very formidable performance. If you look at it right here, everybody has Hadley. We know one thing about Gordon. Even if he's on the underdog, even when he is the underdog, you can never count him out. So one more time, 125 pounds, pace out the roof, non-stop action. This one should absolutely end in a finish. So check out Jake Hadley versus Malcolm Gordon. Check out Jai Herbert versus Ludwig Klein. And with that being said, AJ, we still got a couple of prelims that we should probably talk about here. It's probably pretty important. So let me pull up the good old Tapology UFC 286 page and let's run down some fights. So, of course, this is kind of the spiel or not the spiel, but this is like the status quo when you have a pay-per-view in a certain region. You obviously put regional fighters on the pay-per-view. Like, duh, makes sense, right? So you do see some interesting matchups right here, and let's run down a couple of them. The first one, man, Veronica Hardy versus Juliana Miller. Now, this is not a regional, type situation, but this is the first bout here, and I want to kind of inquire a little bit about your thoughts on Juliana Miller. One, tough, right? Tough 30. She was kind of this like underdog perennially throughout the entire show and still got the job done against a fighter in Brogan, whatever her last name is, who I thought was just a more experienced, more well-rounded fighter. Put it on her, clubbed her up, and then just got the finish, right? So Veronica Hardy, if we're taking a look at her real quickly, you're looking at, you got a KO, submission, couple decisions. Last loss was to Bay Malecki, right? Which is not it's not a really good loss to have. But Pauliana Viana, man, she has a submission win, lost to Jillian Robertson, lost to Andrea Lee, lost to Ashley Evans Smith. My point is not to highlight the losses. Rather, my point is to say, look at the competition that she has fought versus a Juliana Miller who just hasn't fought steep competition like that, man. So do you think, after the Cinderella performance, rising up, winning tough, she is truly ready for what the UFC has to offer?
I don't think so, Derick. Unfortunately, I really like Miller in this one, man. She has a great nickname. Killer Miller is in there. She's going to step in. She's going to handle things. But I don't know if she's ready for the kind of competition. Yeah, like you said, Derick, Veronica Hardy, not the most well-known name, not the biggest name in the MMA scene, but gone up against some killers, lost a lot of those fights, but has some really good wins on her record. What excites me about Miller, she has all the momentum, all the push going for her. She's coming off of the big win, off, like you said, the Cinderella story. So that right there, I think, is going to speak levels to how she goes if she's able to keep that momentum going into the fight. Now, if she gets pieced up in the first 30 seconds, we're going to see what she's made of, and that's a little more exciting to me. What do you think about this one, Derick?
I think it'll be interesting. I think seeing experience versus youth and vigor is always going to be a fun showdown. I'm not going to say that I have a solid pick here, right? I think that Juliana Miller, I'm not going to say she's not ready. I mean, she won tough. She did what she needed to do. It's just, we're really going to see. Against a lady who used to fight at bigger weights and stuff like that, man, Juliana Miller, if she can get it to the mat and work her game, great. If she can't, we're in for something interesting. So that's going to be one that you should definitely keep an eye out on. This is the real one that I wanted to talk about, man. Joanne Wood versus Luana Carolina. So Joanne Wood went from one fight away, and honestly not even a fight away, just waiting it out to fight Valentina Shevchenko for the title, to now you're fighting Luana Carolina. So here's my question, man. Joanne Wood, like, now she's been relegated to this level of a flyweight fighter. Is this a comeback fight for her? Is this the UFC's version of let's get you a get back fight? What do you think?
I kind of think this is actually more the UFC saying this is what you get for waiting out fights instead of actually taking fights. You wanted to wait for the champion. Now, guess what? You get to fight Luana Carolina all the way down on the prelims. I do think this is a lot easier of a fight for Joanne Wood to win, just skill set wise. Carolina can sometimes get long in her punches, leave her chin out, and get a little wiggly in the arms. Not the best look for a striker with length like she has. So I think Joanne can get this, but I think this is more of a learning lesson that Dana White and the brass is trying to teach them of accept the fights and get going. You're a prize fighter. Don't wait it out or bad things are going to happen.
Let me push back a little bit, brother. I can't let you disrespect the Raider fan, Joanne Wood, the syndicate Las Vegas local out here, Joanne Wood. I cannot let you disrespect her. There's a little more context that we need to add here. So Joanne Wood didn't simply just wait out, said, I don't want to fight. Instead, if you remember correctly, she says, you know what? I don't want to wait for Valentina Shevchenko because she canceled the bout because Shevchenko was injured. Instead, I'm going to fight Jennifer Maia. Got armbarred in the first round, which is what set up Maia's fight with Shevchenko. And then you fight Jessica Ai, and then you drop 3 straight to Lauren Murphy, Tyler Santos, and Alexa Grasso, now the current women's flyweight champion. So context-wise, that, I believe, is why the relegation of bringing down to fight Carolina, what's her name, man? Why am I blanking?
Luana Carolina. Yeah, no, Derek, and you're right. Seeing that, I feel like, that is 100%. You're correct. Sometimes you're wrong over here, or sometimes I'm wrong over here. And I think you're right there, Derek. This is definitely a get-back fight.
Yeah, so UFC doesn't really give these too often, man. But now that that also takes your status and lowers your status by taking a fight like this, man. So I think that this is more of a back against the wall for Joanne Wood, because now you're saying, Luana Carolina, you have an opportunity to take everything that Joanne Wood has worked for. Shout out to Nate Diaz, you know what I'm saying? Like, you don't want to lose this fight, because not only is that 4 straight, now you're up for being cut from the promotion, but that's also, if you cannot beat the Luana Carolinas of the world, no disrespect, Luana Carolina is a good fighter, you probably don't need to be sticking around in this level of competition at this point, you know what I'm saying? So, all right, brother, not to mince words here, this is really the only other fight that I want to talk about. Muhammad Mokaev, he's back. And he's fighting an individual who, I'm not going to sit here and lie. A lot of guys, they'll get on here and they will lie to you people. And they'll say, I know every single prospect that's upcoming, every person who fights all over the planet, even though there's a fucking trillion fighters out there. But he is fighting a fighter by the name of Yanal Ashmaz, undefeated fighter, 6-0. We're looking at 4 of his, fights have gone to a finish, right? Former PFL Challenger Series fighter. And my only question is, I wonder if this guy is going to have anything to provide to Mokaev, because Mokaev simply says, I'm going to take you down 20 times. I'm going to at least try. He's going to take the Dvalishvili approach. I'm going to just try like 50 attempts, and whatever happens, happens. But I have a nonstop gas tank, and I'm just going to put it on you. What are you going to do about it? Do you know anything about this guy? Do you think that he imposes any danger? What do you think?
Derek, not only do I not know much about him, when you read the name, I thought Tapology was wrong. I looked at my screen like, that's not the right guy Derek's talking about. No, you're correct. That is the right guy. I really don't, because Mokaev is such a machine and so tenacious in the way he goes about things, man. It's going to be a very, very hard fight for Fialho. How did you say that, Derek?
So that is, let's break it. We need to have one of those, like the John Anik segments, or we guess the pronunciation. Let me see. No, Yanal Ashmaz. Oh, no. You're right. I'm wrong. Oh, no. I'm sorry. It is Jafel Fialho. That is who he's fighting. 14-2.
There we go. Okay.
That makes a lot more sense. Okay, now this guy looks formidable. I still don't know who this guy is, but he looks formidable at least, bro. We got lots of finishes on here. Okay, I like to see this. I was really good. My next question was going to be, why are they giving these guys to Mokaev, right? But this, you got a dude who is arm triangle, knockouts, rear naked chokes, submission guy, right? A guy who can get it done with the finishes. Now we're talking. So what do you think about that?
It's still leading into my point of how tenacious Mokaev is. Yeah. Yes, Fialho can get things done on the ground, but to have the pressure of the wrestler and the smash style that Mokaev presents, and being, training in London, training in the area, having fans there, I think this is a very uphill battle for Fialho going into this one.
Okay. So, and this is just going to be for future content. I'm going to take a guess right now for how to pronounce this man's name. I do believe that the Brazilians who speak Portuguese, the H's are I's. So it might be Filio. Anything? No? All right, we'll see.
Bro, I looked at that and I got Philalio. I got no idea.
Well,
bro.
folks,
I'm just
listen.
gonna butcher it and make more people mad.
That's right. I think that this is a very prompt way to end the show. So let's move on to the outro. Folks, UFC 286, we went over what you needed to go to. This was a very, very apt return back into action. We're back better than ever. And I want you to remember, subscribe to the show if you have not. And there's another place that you need to be subscribing to, and that is my man AJ's Twitch stream. So give the people a shout. Where can they find you?
It's right down there, folks. Hit the links, twitch.tv/Santa Fe Bomber. I said in the beginning, but I'll say it again. We're streaming over there. We're having a great time. We're playing some games. We're doing some art. But the most important thing is y'all are hopping in the chat. We're talking some fights, man. We're getting the in-depth knowledge that you can't get anywhere else. Sure, you get a lot right here. But if you want to know how things are broken down, why we're making the decisions we are, why the X's and O's are going into the places they need to be, you need to check out twitch.tv/Santa Fe Bomber. We're there all the time. Make sure you hit the little bell notification. That way you're actually notified. It's going to send an email right to you. Click the buttons, get going, and join the bomb squad. Let's have some fun out there.
All right. Listen, my man sounds like a real professional over here. You got to love that. All right, folks. Listen, this has been another fantastic episode of the Bloody Water Podcast. You know where to find us. Subscribe, all the fun stuff. But until next time, catch us on Monday for the UFC 286 post show. That's it for us. And until next time, peace.